Diane, I'm listening to a podcast, Black Lodge Trivia Night. I've never heard so many game aspirations in my life. I think I figured out how not to screw up my backup again, so that'll be good. Yeah, I guess we're ready to go, right?
Ready.
All right.
Ready.
Well, welcome back, everybody, to Black Lodge Trivia Night. Matt, how are you doing?
I'm doing well, Art. It has been a whirlwind week, but I'm here.
Nice.
And
Very
I've
nice.
been very much looking forward to this. I'm really enjoying our Vaesen play. Excited to get back to it.
Me too, yeah. So we'll see how this goes. As Matt just said, I probably should say we're Black Lodge Trivia Night, actual play, tabletop, yada, yada, yada. Tonight we're going to continue. This is, I think, part 3 of our Vaesen, which I think is called The Dance of Dreams. It's the introductory adventure in the main core rulebook. But before we get into that, Matt, did you want to do a little trivia?
I sure do.
Okay. Do you want me to bust something out? Or?
Of course I do.
Okay, here we go. You ready?
Oh, yeah.
I'm not shitting you with what I'm about to say, so just brace.
Okay.
At the intersection of Highway 21 and Sparkwood Road, it's not just the location of one of the most atmospheric traffic lights in cinema history. Narratively, something very important happened at that exact intersection in the story of Laura Palmer. What happened at that intersection?
Did she get off James' motorcycle there or something?
That's correct. Yeah. She that's when she sort of gave into the darkness and resigned herself to her fate and jumped off the motorcycle.
Nice.
Which I think is, it's sort of like maybe it's like an easy-ish question, but I was very moved by that moment in Fire Walk With Me.
Yes.
So I wanted to. Also, it was fun to bring up Highway 21 and Sparkwood again.
Always fun to bring them up. If I could for just a second, just again say I really want to rewatch Fire Walk With Me, especially as I'm doing Delta Green prep.
Oh, yes.
Because there's so much more FBI, like Blue Rose stuff going on, and you get the really weird FBI stuff. Obviously, throughout all of Twin Peaks, there's good FBI stuff going on, but Fire Walk With Me is just its own very weird, surreal beast, and I think it's long past due for a rewatch for me.
Would you throw in season 3 as part of that prep, since they sort of tie together in the Twin Peaks universe? Or you think
I don't know if I tied in for the prep. I'd probably just throw it in for my own, like, holy shit, that smoke detector alarm is still going in the background. We have been oh my gosh. This is fucking fun.
So December to January, January to February, February to March, March to April.
We're halfway done with April.
That's right.
Amazing. We need that battery company to sponsor our show. Like, hey, you want some good press on how long lasting your batteries are?
Right.
We have 4 months of video logs.
You're going to do the backup to my dialysis. Because that's just never going to die.
Wait, what battery are you putting in my pacemaker? No, make it a Duracell.
Exactly. Anyway.
I think it'd just be my own, like, let's watch season 3. There's really good FBI stuff now that you mentioned in season 3, of course.
Yeah.
Let's just rewatch it all.
I know we keep, somehow we can't not do something with actual Twin Peaks here. I don't know what it
gotta happen.
Yeah. Anyway. So very good. So that was the trivia question. So, here we are again. We're at the Witch Cat Inn. I'll bring us over there really quickly. And the last time basically you made the journey to the Witch Cat Inn. It was terrible weather, terrible storm. You got here and you got into the inn itself. And started finding your way around the inn, talking to a number of people. You sort of had Sammy, whatnot. He's the owner. Mm-hmm. You spoke to Jonathan. I sort of said niece. I'm not sure if that's right, but you found out that those two used to be old friends, but they had some kind of falling out. And you started asking a little bit about Samuel's wife, Nora, who Jonathan told you about, and Jonathan sort of clammed up, maybe because Samuel overheard his wife's name pop up. And so the father said, like, it's sort of a tragic tale. Meet me in a little bit, maybe out of earshot from, I said the stable, but you don't have to go outside as long as
I was going to give him a hard time. Like, surely this can, like,
right.
Surely you don't mean out in that weather.
Right. And so, you were here with local private eye from Uppsala, Olas Klint.
Mm-hmm.
He showed you an invitation written by hand. You've held that close to the vest. And you've sort of been circumventing without directly saying like, hey, what's this show about? You keep almost hinting at something, but not quite saying it out loud.
And we have I've asked if there's any performances or any entertainment planned for the evening, but the invitation was for a shadow puppet performance, correct?
That's correct, yes. And nobody seems to know specifically about that performance. But like, we were saying, Olas Klint does have a handwritten invitation for it. So,
and he's been out here a few times as well, but has not seen a show.
Right. So he mentioned that he had come out here a little while ago and was terrified. He didn't get into why he was terrified, but he was like, there's something really wrong with this place. And he didn't sort of expand too much more beyond that, but that's where it stands. So, you're here. The father said maybe in a little while, let's get out of earshot. I can fill you in a little bit about what's going on with the owner and, the sad story of his wife, Nora, that you sort of gotten hints of. And then, so you were sort of, still walking around the room. There's Sven Cruz. He's sort of the, I don't know, like he's sort of like the help. He's like the waiter. He's bringing food around. He's getting drinks around. There's also sort of serious looking woman in the corner. And so she's sort of keeping to herself.
So I don't think I'll go directly to the priest immediately. I think I'll let the Father Clarhead. I don't think I'll go to him. I'll let it kind of die down. The kind of tension in the room from what Jonathan, Sammy did the whole keep my wife's name out of your damn mouth.
Exactly.
And so I'll let some of the tension die down, and I'll go over and I'll stroll across the room, and I'll stop by Sven, and maybe I'll pick up a drink from him off his tray or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And I imagine Lisa's sitting in like these high back leather chairs, except they're like worn, like they've been in service for 20 years or something like that. And I'll sit in the chair next to her, and good evening. I'll extend a hand. Ernest Anderson.
Yeah, and so she very, a little nervously takes your hand, and she sort of says, "Oh, a pleasure, sir. My name is Ms. Lisa Finkel." So she's sort of eyeing you a little bit, sort of trying to figure out what's your deal.
It is a pleasure to meet you, Miss Finkel. Is it Miss Finkel? Are you traveling alone?
And again, she sort of looks at you, and yes, I'm here by myself. Yes.
Oh, very good. How are you finding it here? Are the accommodations? Did I stumble into an appropriately comfortable, quaint little abode?
And she sort of takes a moment to look at all the pots catching water dripping through the ceiling, and the window that doesn't quite close from the wind. And she sort of smiles a little bit, eases up a little bit. Give me a learning roll.
Okay. Learning. I think I can actually go over, put them on the sidebar, which again, it drives me nuts that I can't move this thing in the middle of my screen, especially when there's a sidebar to.
Yes. I actually, one success. Perfect. I actually, I went onto the Discord and just said, hey, just a quick question. Like, is there anything that, can we minimize? Can we hide? He's like, no. And there's no current plans to change that at the moment.
Interesting.
So anyway, I gotta, maybe when we're all done with this, we can talk a little bit about alchemy as a whole. I'd be curious to see like people playing Dungeons and Dragons in alchemy. because everybody has to be able to do Dungeons and Dragons, right? It's the elephant
Sure.
in the room. And so
Yeah.
I'd be curious, like trying to appease that while trying to do your own thing. Like, where does it butt heads? Anyway. So you're sort of looking at her, and you sort of notice, the light's a little dim, but you could still see, like, from the candlelight, some glistening sweat on her forehead.
Mm-hmm.
Her eyes don't look quite right. And you get the sense that, and maybe you've seen this before in your travels, or maybe in your writing community you've seen this. She looks like she's a little bit on opium.
Ooh, interesting. I wonder if he... I'm going to tuck that away for now. How is she like responding to me? Is she like cold and distant, or is she starting to like warm up and talk to me a little bit?
Initially, it was a little more cold and distant I don't know if you intended it as a joke, as finding this, quaint thing, but
yeah.
That sort of like put her a little bit at ease. The questions of like, oh, are you traveling alone?
Right, of course. It would
made her
creep
very suspicious. Right.
any young woman out.
Hey, I thought this was make-believe, right? It feels a little too close to home.
I want to tuck that away, and I might use that. But first, whether she looks like it or not, he's gonna cross his legs, and he's gonna like lean in. He's gonna be like, Miss Finkel, you may or may not know this, but I am actually an author. You may have heard of me. I was actually told, and I write some weird, strange fiction, if you will, that there's a most frightening performance that takes place here. Are you familiar with this at all?
And she's looking at you again, a little confused, and she's like, "No, I'm not quite sure." I've heard rumors that, the owner's deceased wife may have had something to do with the theater.
But you haven't seen any shows here, or if one was wanting to do a review and get his name published for a wider audience, nothing.
No, she's like, I'm mostly just passing through. I'm not a regular here at the inn.
Miss Finkel, if I wanted to enhance my stay, how would one go about doing so?
And she's looking at you very much in that, like, are you a cop kind of look? And she's like, I'm not quite sure what you mean. And she's starting to get back onto the part of the spectrum of nervous.
Well, Miss Finkel, I must have been mistaken. I must apologize. You see, my friend Lucy in the sky. Obviously, those are two different drugs. I get it. They're two different drugs. Okay. Sorry if my intent was unclear.
Right.
It's just a little dull in here tonight.
And she, let me, I don't know. Let me try something here. Let me try viewing. Do I have to play? Play. Okay, then I brings up my bar right there. I'm gonna have her roll this, just see what happens. Okay. Out of curiosity, you see that roll, right? It's not like a hidden roll. Okay. Yeah, so she doesn't seem to quite catch on to any, she's a little too stoned to catch the hidden meaning or the catch my drift kind of stuff.
Where do I get the good stuff, lady?
Are you actually trying to score?
No, he's not. He's trying to get a piece of information to maybe use into tuck away. One thing about Ernest is he will record and use and write down and cop other people's stories and afflictions and things that go wrong in their life and morph them into his strange fiction. So there's two things going on here with Ernest. One, the spark of a story about an opioid addict in a creepy hotel.
Yeah.
And the horror she experiences in the night is mwah for him. So he wants to know a little bit more. The other thing is, can he use this somehow in the investigation of if, little Miss Susie Cuckoo is cooking in the kitchen?
So she's starting to, get a little more sweaty and get a little bit of a shake going.
I tell you what I would like to do. I'm going to stand up and I'm going to go over to Sammy.
Okay.
Miss Finkel. Miss Finkel, I hope you enjoyed the rest of your stay. Thank you for entertaining a curious mind this evening. Sammy, Miss Finkel looks like she is falling under the weather. Perhaps it'd be best if she was escorted to her room. And I'm hoping here to just get Sammy out of the room, even if it's just for a couple minutes, to be able to talk to Father Clarhead without him stopping us or watching us.
Yeah. So let's say, maybe he sort of overlooks, like you're facing him. He sort of looks over your shoulder toward Finkel, and maybe she catches his eye, and maybe she's getting a little more suspicious. But he can tell, like you're right. She's
starting to fade off a little bit.
Yeah. So he's like, that's not a bad idea, and so he approaches Miss Finkel. He's like, oh, Miss Finkel, let's get you to your room, and she actually keeps eyeing you. First of all, you came and approached her, and then you seem to have gone and talked to the owner about it. So she's kind of like, I think I do want to get away from. I do want to go somewhere else. So she goes up to the second floor, and we'll just say that Sammy, accompanies her for a little bit.
I'll join Father Clarhead next to the fire, and I'll pull my pipe out. Father, good evening. I am curious to know if you can maybe expand upon what you mentioned to me earlier. Sammy has escorted Miss Finkel out of the room.
And he sort of like, chews on the lit pipe. And, at this point, like, Jonathan also sort of joins over here because he hears, and he's like, oh, yeah, it's a bit of a tragic tale. And Jonathan's like, oh, she was a right good bird. I don't know what the lingo would be. But
I love it. Whatever it is, it's that.
It's that. Exactly. And so what you sort of learn from talking to them is that Sammy's wife, Nora, died somewhat recently.
Okay.
And it was sort of a tumultuous, a little bit of a local scandal. There's always been rumors that Sammy's wife, Nora, was actually a little unfaithful before their wedding. And they had a child shortly after their wedding, but it's never been 100% clear if the child actually belonged to Sammy or if it was part of the dalliance that happened prior to the wedding. And she was sort of like a free soul, and she was very much into the arts. She was very much into theater. In fact, the person she had an affair with was an actor. And she tried to keep that going. She was always, like I said, very artistic, a free soul. Sammy never let it go. And so he tried to quash at every opportunity any artistic.
Literally Will Smith.
Sorry, actually, the owner's name is Will Smith. I read that wrong. So yeah, and so what ended up happening is there was, tough subject. There was talk that, he was physical with her. And that
Sammy, not the actor, right?
Right. Not Will Smith.
Will Smith would be Sammy in this situation.
Oh, right. He's right. So there had been rumors that, yes, Sammy had been physical. Some people had seen some things. And eventually what happened was the wife, whose name was Nora, she left. And about 10 or 11 months ago is when she started to really get back into this idea of like pursuing these artistic endeavors. And eventually it just created an escalating tension with Sammy that built until Like a couple months ago, it just exploded. She left, and she ran off with actually an acting troupe that had been passing through town. And so it was sort of this thing where, like, even though Sammy was the cause of his own unhappiness, he saw it as sort of like, well, there you go. See, like, you know, and so it felt like it sort of confirmed all of his stuff. And, but then word had been passed to the town recently that she had died, on her travels.
Far from here?
Not like, yeah, I guess far enough that, you know, it was sort of something that a couple of weeks later word got back to them. That,
so far enough that Sammy, maybe he was involved, but at least far enough where he had an alibi for the actual murder. Whether he was involved or not doesn't, not my point, but he had an alibi for, he couldn't be the one to kill her.
No. And I'm trying, like, she died of like, she might have died of like consumption. Like she died of an illness, right? It wasn't like she died mysteriously. Okay. And the father, you know, and he looks at her and he's like, yeah, but you know, like her interests, and this is, you know, why I know of it, you know, they were always artistic and, you know, very talented, but they sort of took on like a darker theme. You know, I was sort of a little worried about her soul. You know, she started to explore subjects that weren't just artistic, but like the crossing of artistic and the occult. And I was very worried. I tried to counsel her, but she didn't want to hear it. I tried to counsel Sammy and help them with their marriage, but it just wasn't much use.
This is most peculiar. And he says it a little more confidently than I just said it.
Oh God, it's so weird.
Yeah. He'll sit up, and he's heavily pulling on his pipe. Gentlemen, if I may, and he'll reach into his coat pocket and he pulls out the invitation and he sets it on the, you know, the reading table next to Father Clarhead. Does this mean anything to either of you? And I'm keeping a close eye on both the reactions the best I can.
Right. And they look it over, and Jonathan's like, oh, and he sort of gets like a chill. And then the father, you know, looks at it and he's like, well, you know, like this in a literal sense, you know, isn't something I know anything about, but I can tell you that handwriting belongs to Sammy's daughter, Sophia. And she's a, you know, a young, sweet girl, maybe about 16 years old. And, you know, I haven't seen her here tonight, but, you know, I recognize that handwriting. And then, you know, Jonathan's kind of looking at it sideways. And he's like, oh yeah, look at that. It's like, that does make sense. And, you know, Sophia, you know, apple didn't fall too far from the tree, just like her mother, real cracker, Cracker Jack or whatever, you know. It came out wrong.
Sure did.
I apologize. The old lingo escapes me. God almighty.
Nice. Took a
corker is what I was trying to say. A corker.
Mr. Neese, I was certainly startled by your reaction. Did this catch you off guard for some reason?
Sorry, are you saying that to who? To whom?
Mr. Jonathan.
To the best friend, yeah. And he's like, well, I mean, you know, Sophia's a lovely, lovely gal, but, you know, she, you know, if she's going to head down the path that her mother went, like, you know, I don't know how Sammy's going to react. You know, like, I know, like, Sammy and I used to be good friends. I know we're not as close as we used to be. I don't think he knows about this.
And I pull up my pocket watch. What time is it?
Let's say it's 8:39ish. It's getting a little late, but not obnoxiously late.
Gentlemen, it is getting late, but obviously it's not obnoxiously late yet. I have it 1:30. It's like, it's not even that fucking funny. It's I am could I expect to find young Miss Sophie here?
And it's like, oh,
Or-
yeah. She definitely, sometimes she's helping around the inn, but I haven't seen her this evening. I'm sure, she's got a room upstairs, and maybe she's up there. I'm not sure.
Very well. I pick up the invitation and I pocket it.
Mm-hmm.
And we hurried inside so quickly. I briefly noticed the stables. Miss Sophie wouldn't be outside anywhere on the grounds tonight, would she?
Oh, good heavens. No. Out in this weather, definitely not. And I mean, as you've seen, like, this place, the stables, like the building outside is completely collapsed. The root garden is falling apart. The stables are barely standing up. It's like, even if it were decent weather, I don't think she'd feel comfortable in any of those places. This whole place, and they sort of, and Jonathan sort of looks, he's like, I've known Sammy a long time. This inn is the pride of his life. It belonged to his father. It belonged to his father's father. His pride would be to hand it to his only daughter, his only child, Sophia, and have her continue the legacy. But
I pull out my pipe, assuming, Mr. Nice, that Sophia is his daughter.
What? The glass shatters. Everything goes silent. The player piano stops. He's like, huh, yeah. Oh, so you've heard the rumors, huh?
Yes, you just witnessed
the father tell me 5 minutes ago.
Yes, right.
You were right there, sir. Do you not remember? Can we get him some opium?
Right.
And so he's like, yeah, but no, even that's true. Like he, it's still his plan to give this place over to Sophia, and it's breaking his heart the condition this building is in. Like I said, it's his pride and joy, and it was always in like one of the loveliest inns in the area. And yeah, and about I don't know what it was, but about like 10 months ago, things just started to sort of.
When did Nora die? How many months ago?
Nora died probably a month or two ago, but she started to get a little different about 10 months ago.
I'll stand up. Father, do you think that Nora's soul was beyond saving?
He's like, oh, son, if there's one thing, I know from the Bible is that no soul is beyond saving if the person wants to be saved.
Do you think my soul's beyond saving?
God, yes. There's no hope. You're the exception. No, he's like, of course, son, not at all. If you truly repent, if you truly believe.
How far out of town are we? Just from my above table.
I thought it was like 3 hours from
3 hours.
Uppsala, and then there's another town that, if you had to walk, would be like an hour and a half away.
So rural, not
yeah.
suburbs. Not obviously suburbs didn't exist,
No.
but Father, is everything you do by the good book, or are there certain? Let me rephrase that. Is everything that Nora and I can't remember his name now. Sammy. Is everything they did by your good book there, and I'll nod toward his Bible, or you mentioned occult activities. Was there any traditions of the old ways, any superstitions that you notice Nora or notice Sammy continue to do?
He's like, well, Sammy, no, Sammy, definitely not.
Okay.
Nora, she definitely started collecting books. I'm sure they're somewhere around here. And, she, would try and bring in, we're saying she got reinvigorated about her interest in the theater and acting troupes. But the stories that they would try and tell were a bit of the darker variety.
Darker fairy tales.
Yes, folklore, things that maybe I wouldn't be 100% comfortable with in a literal sense, but, they're just harmless stories, I like to believe.
Very good, gentlemen. Very good. And I'll return to Gertrude and Olas once the conversation has died down, and I'll get another drink from Sven, and I'll wait until Sammy comes back into the room.
Okay. So let's say, a minute or so later, he's gotten Miss Finkel situated. He comes back down and, thanks Sven for holding down the fort. And then Sven goes back to helping out.
Sammy, I hope Miss Finkel is doing much better. Is my room ready? I wanted to retrieve an item, a book from my belongings.
I was like, yes, of course. Your room is absolutely ready. It's right upstairs. Do you need me to show you your way? Or?
Oh, no. That'd be just fine.
I insist. No, I'm kidding. So he's like, yeah, of course. Your room is ready at any time. Feel free to come and go as you need, et cetera, et cetera.
Real quick, before he comes in, all that happens, because I just looked at the map.
Sure.
Jonathan, you would... were Sammy and Nora, their marriage, was it reconcilable? Or were there too many differences that the marriage could no longer be restored?
It's like, well, that's, not that I know everything that goes on between a husband and his wife, but I would say it, Nora was a very special woman, and I can see why Sammy was so taken with her. And you're starting to get a little sense that maybe Jonathan was a little taken with her too. But
Jonathan, do you have any acting background?
And he's like, but I do know it got off to on the wrong foot. And I don't know if it ever recovered. And it just got to the point where, I think Nora felt like she'd been punished enough.
Interesting. I will head upstairs.
Okay.
And I will ignore that I see above that Nora had her own separate room.
Right.
But I will start walking down the hall, and I'll listen in and try to deduce that Miss Finkel is in. Which room is Miss Finkel in, and maybe my room's, I don't know, that one or something.
Yeah.
And then, am I able to tell, is Ernest able to tell what these other rooms are?
Yeah, let's see.
Or for example, if I start over here, am I able to even open this one and peek inside?
Right. So when you check that door, it's locked.
Okay. Is there any indication that it would be something other than something related to the inn? Is there a sign that says Nora's room, keep out?
No, but you're sort of getting, like, it does seem like, this row over here is kind of like just a row of like what seems like when you peek in this room here, like your room, you're like, oh, this is a guest room, and it looks like all these doors are roughly.
Okay. So I'd maybe assume that this is actually the master bedroom.
Right.
I would have no indication that Sammy was in a different room. And I put my ear up to these other rooms that are different than the guest rooms. Do I hear anything?
No. What you... I don't know if it's worth doing a roll, but let me just see what you got going on. Would this be vigilance or observation? Doesn't really matter because they're the same. So give me one or the other.
Okay.
I think it'd be technically 2 successes.
2 successes, nice.
You're hearing noises coming from above, like somebody's walking around and somebody's quite busy upstairs. And you do see like there's like a trapdoor up to, and you can sort of tell from the outside there's like a 3rd story. And yeah, you're hearing some noises coming from the upstairs.
And you said it's a trapdoor, so it's not like there's no room. I wouldn't assume that there's rooms.
Right. It's almost like if you pull down the thing, it'd be like a ladder that you would sort of half climb to get up.
Okay. Sure. I'll head up the trapdoor.
And so, you know what? Let me just see something really quickly.
Sure.
Give me a stealth roll. I know you're not deliberately. I just want to see something.
No successes.
Okay. So as you sort of, you sort of tug at the trap door, and it's sort of got these like scissoring extensions that help the stairs come down, but it just goes, because it just makes this like noise that, even with the thunder and lightning outside, it's just obvious, that you're pulling down this thing. And so as you're doing that, you start hearing as you sort of get it down all the way, it's sort of like a little bit fighting you a little bit. It's not exactly smooth or well-oiled. Mm-hmm. You start hearing footsteps coming up the stairs, and you turn around and you see Sammy behind you as you're sort of got the stairs down, and you're like 1 foot on the ladder, I guess. Like, oh, what?
Sammy, surely, I must say, I'm very impressed by your inn, but this is quite the inconvenience to get up to my room.
Give me a manipulate roll just to see.
Okay.
I'm just curious.
No successes.
He's like, sir,
I won't push that. That's fine.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. He's like, sir, it's quite odd. I'll say that. Almost rude. Your room clearly is, here where your key will fit into the keyhole that is clearly in view.
And I pick up my key out of my pocket, and I lift it up to the trap door, and I'll just turn around and try it on the door behind me. So it is. What's up above us? I thought I heard some faint noises, and curiosity got the best of me.
And then with that, he sort of hears sort of the clunk, clunk, clunk.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, oh, my goddamn daughter. And so he goes over to the thing and he screams at her like, Sophia, you know how I feel about these things. You get down here right now and you come talk to me. I told you I didn't want you up there. I didn't want you going through your mother's things. I didn't want you doing any of the things that, he starts going on.
Mother's things.
Right. And so she starts, Father, leave me alone. This has nothing to do with you. You drove mother away. You want to drive me away as well. You're acting irrationally. And so after a moment, she,
Sammy, I know we're not friends, but perhaps I can recommend you the Gentle Parenting book by Sarah Smith. I think it will do wonders for your approach with Sophia. Kidding, I don't say that.
And so, and he's, and he's like, I know you blame me for your mother. It wasn't my fault. You don't know everything about her.
Standing there with my key.
And yeah, and so she starts to huff and she starts to go downstairs. Sort of getting away from her father. And he's sort of don't turn your back to me kind of thing. And even Miss Finkel is, looks like she maybe juiced up a little bit more. So she's a little glassy eyed, but even she comes out as like, whoa, all right. And then she just goes back in.
Did he leave the trapdoor steps down?
Yeah, they never closed it up. They got so caught up into what they were doing.
I'm going to head upstairs before I follow after them.
All right. So yeah, you go upstairs into the attic and you get up there, up the trap door, and the attic is littered with trunks, boxes, books, and old clothes. But Sophia's cleaned up the far end, put up sort of makeshift curtains made out of some clothing and some cloth that she found. And it sort of is blocking something behind it. But here in the area, she sort of set out some chairs sort of to face the curtains.
Like a performance, like a shadow.
You would, yes, you guess that it looks like, she was designing this to entertain an audience.
I peel back the curtain and kind of step behind.
Right. And what you see is behind the lanterns, you see like sort of like a white cloth, and behind that you see lanterns, paper figures on sticks, cloth screens that could be different backgrounds, and everything is sort of connected to like this clockwork mechanism. So when you turn the handle, things move and pass in front of light sources.
And it's all very mechanical. Nothing seems to be like, oh, how does that operate? Like there's nothing fishy or...
No, you look at it like if you turn the crank, you could see like these sort of things pass in front of a lantern.
And as I turn the crank, I'm looking around the room and stuff. I'll turn the crank some. Does anything happen other than the performance?
Not anything specific. Just like like the first thing starts to move in place, and you can see it block the light, cast a shadow, and it looks like it's a sort of a silhouette of like what looks like a young man.
I'll keep turning it to see a little more of the story, maybe.
So you sort of turn it and you see like this young man shows up a number of times, and you see something that looks like, king and queen, like somebody in royal dress. Then you see what looks like maybe a guillotine. And then, you see the young man pop up again, so it's sort of like, you can't quite...
So his head was cut off, but then he comes back?
Not quite sure what happened, but yeah, it seems like there is a story going, but you can't really put the story together entirely.
So I don't recognize the story.
Not 100%, no. It's
does this look like a story that was conceived by a 13-year-old, or does this look well beyond her, like it was something maybe that I think might be her mother's?
There's a lot going on here. Technically she's 16, but there's a lot going on here. Like the mechanisms are all pretty complicated. The story itself,
even the puppetry and stuff isn't just like...
I'll
do and if this seems to be investigation, that's fine, but I'm going to just continue to look around the room after I feel like I get a full cycle of because I assume it's something that maybe runs in a loop or something like that.
Yeah, eventually you'd get to the end and it would start the story over. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm just looking around the rest of the room for anything interesting.
There's nothing specifically interesting. It's just, you notice like the rooms are sort of like, the room has sort of like, a bunch of like these sort of blue lanterns that give the theater sort of like this ghostly appearance, but mostly it's sort of seems like ambiance to pair with whatever the shadow play would be.
And the shadow play does not match up, as far as I can tell, does not match up with the story presented on the invitation. Or does it?
Let's take a look.
So it says, for the listener, it says, watch as evil smiles, good people go to their doom, and spirits come to life. Follow Oscar Hjort's encounter with the Black One, his struggle, and finally the betrayal which claimed his life. Hear the tunes of an enchanted flute that sends souls dancing to hell.
Well, let's see.
Or do you think that is the presentation or the performance that I'm seeing?
Let's see. It's very possible that, because again, there were a lot of like things that could have been sort of harrowing, but it wasn't 100% clear that, damn, that's what I'm looking at.
Was there what I did some research into the Black One, but I don't think I came up with anything other than maybe some past interactions with members of the Order, but nothing specific. Is there any kind of like, as I watch the performance unfold, is there any kind of mystical creature or like a big dark black creature that kind of emerges as a puppet or anything like monstrous looking throughout this presentation?
Let's see.
I keep saying presentation, performance.
Right. maybe like one of the scenes involves like a grave. Maybe you see like a little headstone. And I don't remember what we discussed. You learned about Oscar Hjort.
Wasn't
obviously? Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No.
I think.
Maybe I'm thinking of
sorry.
Helmer.
Yeah, there was Hilmer and there was Albert. So I think what you would have. So Oscar was supposed to meet with Hilmer and Albert, which were sort of higher level, society people. Because the Witch Cat Inn's previous owner, Sammy's father, was also a member of this, Thursday, Child of Thursdays or whatever.
Right.
Had the site. And so he would offer up this place for, clandestine society meetings outside of Uppsala. And Oscar was meant to go meet with Hilmer and Albert. And I think he never...
That was his last journal entry.
Right. That was his last journal entry.
Okay. So it's weird then that the handout references Oscar Hjort.
Mm-hmm.
And so this was a play or performance about Oscar.
It is possible. Yep.
Or that, I mean, that's what the invitation
That's what the invitation says, yeah.
Was Oscar an actor? Did I see that in his journal entry by day?
Yeah, I think we talked about this. He was an artist who traveled to Paris and studied, shadow performances there, and was quite good at it. Yes, that was something he learned abroad in Paris.
Ooh, I bet that's not all he learned abroad. Catch my drift. Wee wee. Very good. So, Oscar boinked Nora. I will head down the trapdoor.
Okay.
And I will... Did Sophie head to this room labeled Sophie's room?
No, she came down the door and her dad was basically right there. And to get away from him, she went downstairs.
All right. I want to give... I don't really have like lock-picking tools.
So...
And he's already caught me once, so I may not even...
I was trying to figure out, like, if you were able to lockpick it with just a skill and, like, a lockpick kit would give you a bonus, or if you needed the lockpick kit. Like, you needed the kit, even though you get a bonus, like, it was mandatory.
I don't think I'll... Like, he's already suspicious of me for a number of reasons. If he catches me in Nora's... Or that room, that may be too much.
Okay.
I guess I'll head back downstairs into the dining room. I'll grab a book out of my room first.
Okay, just to keep the cover alive.
Right.
All right, and there you go. So you grab the book. It's one of your own. No. I'm just going to do a little... I can sign this for you. Yeah, so you grab the book, you head downstairs, and you're sort of walking into the middle of a pretty heated argument between Sophia and Sammy.
Okay.
And you're sort of getting the hint that, you're sort of getting the hint that Sammy, this isn't the first time he's really gone after Sophia. I might have said Nora, I meant Sophia.
Dad, this isn't the first time you've done this to me.
Right. And you're sort of getting the hint that this might be the first time Sophia's like, you know what, I think I might need to stand up for myself, even though the consequences might be severe.
Oh.
And so, she's upset. She's in tears. The father's yelling. Everybody's sort of like just dead stopped. The father Niels is wondering, like, do I need to step in? And Gertrude is kind of the same way. Like, do I need to like put this asshole down? Like, I know it's a family thing, but, and then all of a sudden, Sammy really starts to lose it. And he picks something up off the bar and he pulls his arm above his head like he's about to hit Sophia with it.
I'll grab his arm.
Well, before he can do that, all of a sudden, everything goes dark.
Oh.
All the lights all at once go dark.
Oh, yeah. I take a step towards Sammy, and then it, like, whoosh, total darkness.
Right. And, like, the windows blow open, cold air rushes in. And then a moment later, all of the light sources reignite, but they're not flame. They're blue.
Oh.
And so you get this sort of eerie light around the room, and you look, and everyone's asleep except for you, Gerton, Sammy, and Sophia.
And I think how it worked, like, fade into black, and then it's in blue, and I'm in the middle of saying, like, Mr. Arjula, that is enough. But, like, I finished that is enough, and it's like we're in this eerie blue. And does he react? Is he moving, or is he, like, frozen still?
He and Sophia are both like this. And I need you. Okay, so we're going to do a fear test. Now, there's two ways you can approach fear. Basically, you can use logic, or you can use, and if you're looking in your books, I think this is on page 68. You can either do logic, or you can do, and it's basically deciding like what stat you want to use to resist.
Okay.
And I need to figure out fear. Let's see. Pass a fear test. You tackle a situation with logic or empathy. The attribute value indicates how many dice you roll. So this is going to be a level 1 fear test, so you need only 1 success to pass. And so you get to decide, do you want to use empathy or logic? And if you can, tell me a little bit about your approach to choosing.
I'll use logic.
Okay.
And I'll use... I have... Ever since the fire, I've dedicated my life, despite like how my patron wanted to bring me up, to learning and understanding Vaesen. And it's not logic as so much like this creepy bump in the noise can be explained scientifically. It's that I've come to expect things that are unfamiliar or uncomfortable or go bump in the night. And even though this is eerie and mysterious and unknown to me, it's not necessarily always something that's evil. And so I've become skeptical and fearful or I guess respectful of the unknown. Fearful is not the right word, but I'm no longer necessarily afraid of the strange.
Right.
And so that's why.
Okay, so when you make this roll, give yourself, if there's a way to enter it, a +1 bonus, because you get a bonus for every other sort of quote-unquote player character that's sort of there.
So
and
I think I can just roll investigation, which would be my logic, which is 4, and then investigation is 1.
Cool.
So that would be the easiest way, I think, to roll 5 dice, unless I type in... I don't know how to just roll. I'm sure I could just do roll D5, but I'll just roll investigation because it should get the...
Oh, I see. Yeah, there's a way, like if you click... Technically speaking, if you click, say, logic, it should make there's like test or edit. If you click edit, you might be able to pop it up like a little slider. Oh, no, but that's a permanent, and then you got to change it back, so that's not the best way.
I don't know if I can click logic. Oh, yeah, I can. I see logic right there.
Yeah, but I don't know if there's a way to enter a...
Oh, I think just rolling investigation will be...
Yeah, easier.
Same thing.
So I'm going to do...
Oh, shit.
Oh, okay. Cool as the other side of the pillow.
I am the darkness.
All right. I wish there was a way to... Yeah, just add a bonus die to your roll.
And it might be...
Okay, doesn't matter. Like, he got a couple of successes. He would have gotten a +1 as well. But, so you guys both... be cool. You're both there. So, again,
I'll even like maybe with my successes, I'm like, Sophia, Sammy, I want both of you to remain calm. And I'll even like exude some of my calmness upon those that are with us in the room.
Okay. Yeah. That's a good...
I don't try to explain it. I'm just trying to keep them calm.
Yeah. So they, they're distracted from their fight, but you do get to sort of... Okay. And they take that road, and they don't overreact. They keep their head, and they're sort of looking around. And, so what would you like to do?
Sophia. And I'll like lightly brush Sammy aside, and I'll give him a nod, like,
Mm-hmm.
and then I'll turn to Sophia. Have you experienced something like this before?
Right. So she's like, still kind of looking around. She's like, no, nothing like this. I have dreams, but no, I don't.
Tell me more.
Um,
And I do the whole, like, I guess she's 16. I was gonna say I do like the squat to go eye level with her.
okay.
But I am looking in the eyes, like trying to show her that I'm listening and taking what she's about to say seriously.
Okay.
Because she's
And,
she's at that age where adults are probably like, "Oh, you foolish child."
right. And she's like, after my mom left, I started going through her things. And I realized, what a wonderful artist she was. And you can see like Sammy getting a little riled, but, he's
Mr.
staying
Archula,
calm.
please, I insist.
And, as she's talking about her mother, she sort of tears up a little bit, and you can tell she deeply misses her. And she's like, yeah, I keep having this dream. And in this dream, I'm always the same person. I'm this man. And
Are you Oscar?
she sort of looks up at you, and it's like, yeah, that's the name. Yeah, Oscar.
I'm going to. Does this, and the things I've been able to study or witness or experience, so either at the society or my own experience, is this like ringing any bells as to what I could be dealing with here? At what kind of magic or Vaesen that might be at play here?
I'm gonna say, well, let me ask you a question. Like, you're very new to the society.
Mm-hmm.
In your writing, you were sort of writing about Vaesen, but were you explicitly writing about Vaesen, or was it just
For someone in the know, they could tell it was
something?
Yeah, like a lot of it's rooted in Vaesen old ways folklore. So for someone who is a true believer, they would recognize it as Vaesen. Yeah.
Okay. Give me let's see. Man, what would be a good role for this? Sort of like a folklore. Would it be learning, do you think?
Maybe learning. I think that would
Sort of cover it?
Yeah, we can just real quick double check. Learning. Measure of your education as well as your established connections. When you need to know something about what's in front of you, you can use learning to translate. You can use learning to obtain basic information about a Vaesen. So maybe, yeah.
Give me a...
Yeah.
Okay.
Learning. I just lost it. There it goes. Oh, barely. One success.
Okay. So what you know is that there are Vaesen that do have the power to... let me just check something out really quickly. There are Vaesen that can manipulate dreams. There are Vaesen that can sort of manipulate environments. You might not know specifically the exact Vaesen that could do it, but what you're seeing is not out of bounds for what you know of Vaesen.
Very good. Mr. Harjula, I understand that you are upset, and I'll even humor is bullshit, and rightfully so. I don't believe that at all. There are forces at play here, not necessarily evil, but unknown to us. And I and my compatriot here are well versed in this area. I ask that you please forgive me, and whatever I ask Sophia, whatever she is about to relay to me, I ask that you remain quiet and calm and let her tell her story, please. Okay. If you need, have yourself a drink and what's his name is like asleep,
Yeah.
and like he plopped back into a chair, but maybe he's still holding the tray perfectly. So I'll grab like a drink off that. Perhaps you should drink this.
Yeah. That's because he's a goddamn professional.
That's right, exactly.
So he shoots,
I take the drink off the tray, and the other hand sips up like tips. Even though I slip. Yeah. Sophia, I want you to tell me everything you can about Oscar, and perhaps what you know about. I gotta look it up again. The Black One.
And she's like, well, I know it from dreams, but
perhaps you know more than that.
Will you let me show you?
Please.
And so she proceeds upstairs.
Olas is asleep, right?
Yes.
Gertrude, perhaps you and Mr. Harjula would wait for us on the second floor. Wait for us, like when we get to the trap door.
Mm-hmm.
Perhaps you wouldn't mind waiting for us at the bottom here.
Sorry, the father, right? You're asking the father?
I want Sammy and I want maybe Gertrude to wait right at the bottom of the stairs.
Okay. Yeah, is this something you want to roll for? Or do you? I don't care either way. Or do you?
No, I'm asking Gertrude and
yeah.
I'm not asking Sammy.
Got it. Okay. Yeah. So maybe Gertrude sort of like give me some space, sir. And the father is definitely not happy about this, but yeah. Let's see. What else? Okay. So you go upstairs. Give me an empathy roll.
Okay. No successes.
Okay. So you go upstairs and, and Sophia sort of gets, behind the thing and she sort of gestures for you to sit at the chair. And so we'll have Sammy downstairs with Curtin. They're there. Doesn't matter, but there we go. So yeah, you take a seat and you sort of see, next to the stage over here somewhere, you sort of see like a pile of, looks like notes. And, sort of Sophia sort of flips through them a little bit, but then she, and then gets behind the stage. And, she starts her story. She starts cranking the wheels, and then the story unfolds. A young man wanders through Europe, seeing things few people are fortunate enough to witness. He dances with queens and visits Versailles and the Palais Royal. There are people perform his plays and praise his name, and life dances along like a dream. But the People's Revolution sweeps the land with grenades and fire, and those who are playing and singing end up dead by the side of the road. The young man flees the song of the guillotine. Our hero returns home to a city in the north. He walks through its gates without shoes, poor and mute. The house where he was born is burnt to ashes, and his family is missing. He kneels by the side of the road, begging for coin, and no one knows that his name was once sung in the palaces of Europe. Suddenly he sees things that no one else does, creatures creeping, flying, and crawling, as the invisibles reveal themselves to him. When he points them out to others, he is mocked and beaten. A man picks him up from the street and has him bathed and clothed. That man's name is Albert, and his mansion is a place of love and song. Our young hero performs his plays and sings to him for days and nights, and they eat fruit and drink wine. Albert introduces his friends. In the young man's dreams, they are all dancing together. But the dreams lie. It was you. You brought me here. You asked me to sit down and talk. We spoke of the future of the world. I have the right to refuse. You said so and smiled. And then you butchered me like a pig one hangs from the ceiling. You buried my body in unholy ground without a priest or consecration. Now dreams are all I have left. I gaze out over the audience at the Palais Royal. I dance with the princess. I eat cake. I look up into your eyes, Albert, and I let you take my dirty hand. You summon me to Piri's Inn. You make me a villainous proposition, and I decline. You cut me up. I scream, not wanting to die. At last you are back. Welcome.
Oh. So, Albert, who I took to be a member of the society, or a Thursday's Child, and predates the society, one of the two, offered some kind of proposition to Oscar, and then obviously that turned into be something far darker.
Yes.
And butchered and buried Oscar, who is now living in some kind of sick, tormented dream and vision.
Right. And I will say, as the story progressed, Sophia's voice got a little deeper, a little darker. You couldn't see her. She was behind cranking the thing, but, you know, her voice started one way and it sort of kept going darker and deeper.
Love it.
Sorry, go ahead.
Above table. Remind me, did the Thursday's Children predate the society? And I know there was like a split at some point and stuff.
My understanding is that, the Thursday's Children was sort of where it began. Sort of named after like a nursery rhyme. And then the society developed from a collection of these people, yes.
Okay, so do I know if Albert was in the society, or do I just know he had the site?
He was in the society. He was written up. It was Hilmer and Albert were two people that came here to the inn to meet Oscar. And
like our society too, like not.
Yes, yeah. And that was the last journal entry of Oscar's. And so, as the play finishes, you see the curtain start to come back, but you don't see Sophia. You see
Oscar.
You see a decaying body step out from behind the curtain, and his throat has a huge gash. And he looks right at you, and he says, "Welcome, Albert." And he flashes right toward you. He just rushes right at you, and you give me a roll fear 2 check.
Okay, I'll do logic again.
Okay.
So this will be +1, right?
Yeah.
I have 1 success, so I need 2 successes.
So yeah, you need to get 1 more success.
I'm gonna push this.
Okay. Nice, got it. So now that means you have to take a condition, right?
Yeah.
This would be a mental condition: angry, frightened, hopeless, broken.
Take the. There was somewhat an easy way to do this. Now I can't remember. Oh, there's the D6 I was looking for. Mental. Okay.
Okay. So you don't freeze, but you do take a mental condition. And so he just flashes right towards you like he's going right for your throat. And right at the last second, right when you're expecting contact, you're maybe ready to push him off or fight him off, he literally like passes right through you, goes right down the trap door, and disappears. And we will fade to black there.
Oh, you son of a bitch.
There we go.
Ah.
So right before he flashed at you, he literally addressed you and said, "Welcome, Albert," and rushed right towards you. And maybe after that, like maybe the lanterns sort of flicker for a second, they go out and then they come back up, and then you sort of see Sophia, sort of dazed, where the curtain has been pushed away. She's been revealed. She's sort of a little out of it, maybe sort of halfway on the floor. But yeah, that's where we'll fade to black.
Did Oscar pass through me or run around me?
Through.
So he passed through me and then down the trapdoor, and obviously I didn't. Okay, well,
yeah.
And
there we go. Yeah. So there we go. That's the third session. We got the story sort of.
Damn you, Art. That's like one of the best cliffhangers I've been left on in an RPG ever. Like I've had some good cliffhangers, but usually it's like, oh, we're getting ready for a fight.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you dropped all. That's like a pipe bomb, and then you just.
Right. So I don't know if you do this as a GM, but I'm always trying to picture in my head, like, okay, like where would be a couple of good spots to fade it? Because you don't want to fade to black in the middle of. So I poured myself a drink and checked my watch. Fade to black. Right. Like
My fade to blacks are where I stopped doing prep.
that's where it's just a dead end of the road. Yeah.
Matt, we've been playing for 5 minutes. No, this will build drama.
Fade. Right. And so there was one of two places. One was this, and the other was when everybody falls asleep.
No, I'm glad you kept it going.
Yeah. So I was like, you know what? Let's just keep moving. Let's get the sleep going.
Good.
There's no reason to drag this out. And I gotta say, like, I really like. I like what the introductory adventure evokes, and I like a lot about it. I like this game a lot, obviously, and it really makes me curious what they bring to the table with their campaign, because I think they released a book with a series of adventures. So
it's really cool. The implications.
Mhm.
Obviously, we're going to get some kind of resolution, whether it's good or bad.
Right.
But here I am. I'm this eager beaver author who wants to study Vaesen and explicitly wants to understand them and make sure that we're not obliterating these past traditions and past mystical beings.
Right.
And we respect them and do those things. And here I've joined the society that allows me to do that. And the very first thing I find out is I know Oscar goes to meet Albert, this member of the society,
Mm-hmm.
like not even just someone on the site, but helped found the society. And obviously Ernest doesn't know all the history of like some people in the society think we should hurt or whatever.
Right.
And then I found out like it's, if you listen to Oscar, like, whoa, who did I just get in bed with is what I'm trying to say.
Right. Yeah. I'll be
Amazing.
curious. I mean, obviously I know what happens next. But yeah, that's the trick with this kind of stuff. I don't want to say it's ever easy, because I don't want to discredit the work that goes into creating these kinds of stories. But if you take something like, say, like the X-Files, it's very easy to have like an episode be like, whoa. But then when you're trying to get like the overarching, like the mythos,
right,
eventually it's like, this is getting kind of dumb. That's why I'm really curious to see what Vaesen brings to the table with a bigger story, because creating a mood is not easy, but sort of fleshing it out, I feel like, can be the real tripping point for, or even for like Cthulhu, like, some of the adventures like Nyarlathotep or Orient Express, like, in a little chunk, I feel like it's, you don't have to dig too deep or explain too much or flesh too much out. It can just be creepy on its own. But if it becomes part of a bigger narrative, I'm curious to see how this handles it someday.
Yeah, for sure. It's amazing. I'm enjoying it. This is a really good session.
Nice. Well, we'll get back to it, I guess, in a little while. And maybe someday, maybe this will enter the rotation. We'll get Patrick, make it an official entry, in the rotation.
A lot of games to play, but I'm enjoying this one.
Yeah. All right. Well, in that case, let's call it here. And we want to thank everybody who's checked this out. Really appreciate it. If you're watching this, you've already found our YouTube channel. So again, like and subscribe, and, thank you for swinging by. If you prefer audio versions of what we do, just search for Black Lodge Trivia Night wherever you get your podcasts, and we should show up. What do we got coming up? We're going to wrap up Otari pretty soon.
One more session of Otari. The next session will be the last one.
Yeah, we'll have more of this, and then we might start rotating out into the next bigger game, which should be like an espionage game. And
after May, we'll have some substantial shakeup in your and I's regularly occurring games, as well as the Thruples ongoing game. And we have our 1 year celebration coming up, so we'll have another Damn Fine Coffee.
Nice.
You and Patrick are doing some shenanigans next week. We'll see what
hopefully
those are.
It's all good. So thank you very much to everyone. Follow us on social, but the main thing is, if you want to come hang out, jump into our Discord. We chat about RPGs, computer RPGs. We've even gotten a game going of Dragonbane.
Mm-hmm.
So to everyone who watches, thank you very much, and take care. We'll talk again soon.
Thank you, Art. Good night, everyone.